I'm Melody Carlisle.
And I'm Sabrina Bradley.
And this is Heaving Bosoms. This is the podcast where best friends recap romance novels and other kissing media that makes us swoon, snark, and refills our cups.
Whether you've read the book or are coming in blind, we'll lay bare every delicious scene and revel in the tropes and subgenres that make romance amazing.
All right, listener, strap in and strap on. Headphones are highly recommended.
I'm so sorry, Melody.
No worries.
Can you tell that I've been drinking seltzer and bumping around?
Holy shit. Okay, hi, Sabrina.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God. Listener, we started this recording by me creepily watching Sabrina do a dance party and just like bopping along with her without her even knowing, which was amazing. And then we sit down, I'll go to do the count, and she just belches hard in my face. Oh my God, I'm so into it. You're a goddamn horny toad, unicorn, sea urchin.
Yeah. You know what? I am who I am.
Yes, I love it.
No shame. No shame. This is what happens when you drink seltzer and dance.
Bop around.
And then sit down.
That's
Your
right.
body goes, hey, I have some extra.
Hey, girl.
Oh my God.
I think we have to go straight to book because I'm really excited about book.
Yeah, we're here.
Hello.
We're
Hello,
here.
everyone.
Let's hop in.
We've
Happy
arrived.
Halloween. Almost.
Happy fucking Halloween, everyone. And like, oh my God. I was expecting this book to be good. I was not expecting the brand of good, like the flavor of good.
Holy shit.
I was not expecting the deep and powerful angst.
Yeah.
I was not expecting to like grow with these characters. And yet here I fucking am.
This book hit me in all of my soft spots.
Ooh.
Like, about feeling like stuck in your life.
Yeah.
And not good enough. And like one year, next year I'll do the thing. Next year. And you just, we'll talk more about it in episode because like I have a lot of highlights from it. So inevitably I will bring it up again. So listener, this book was only like 160 pages. It did not feel like 160 pages. Like this felt like a full novel.
Yeah.
But it never felt rushed, which was really nice. Like the pacing
the pacing on this was perfect.
Good.
Yeah. It was bananas. Oh, we're here to recap.
Oh yeah, hi.
Haunted Hookup
by Eliza McLane.
I'm not used to not doing an intro yet. Oh shit. Oh no. Hold on. We have to shout out a bunch of new patrons because we have a bunch of new patrons. That's very, very exciting. Okay.
Hell yeah.
All right. So, hey, everyone. Thank you for joining our Patreon. We want to say a huge welcome to Lindsay C. and Gudrun W.,
Sophia L. and Emma J.,
Tiff L. and Lisa L., Faith J.E., and last but not least, Jill. Hi,
Hello.
everyone.
Welcome.
I'm so glad you're here.
Yay.
Yeah, so we got a ton of bonus episodes for you and other stuff at the higher tiers. If you want to join, that's patreon.com/heavingbosoms podcast. and y'all make the show go. So that's huge for us.
Thank you.
And for HBs everywhere.
Yes.
Okay, now we got to get into this book. Now we can.
Let's get into this book. I love this book so much.
I fucking loved this book. It was a shocker, like overall, even though there wasn't a shocker. I will just say that out loud.
I was shocked as fuck.
A shocker didn't happen.
Oh. You mean like the sex
like
thing?
The book was a shocker, but there wasn't a shocker included. You know what I mean?
For once in my life, that is not immediately where I went with my brain. So, anyway.
No, truly, for once in your life, like that's astounding to me.
Usually, I go immediately to.
Yeah, it's almost, Sabrina, it's almost alarming to me, honestly. I'm going to keep an eye on you today. Okay. So we've got Alice. And the way that this is organized is over a weekend that she is spending at Hathaway House. Yeah. So each time we open a chapter, it'll be like Hathaway House, night 1 or 2 or 3, and then the character's perspective it's from. It's either Alice or Dominic. So we start with Alice, and like she is at a costume party. It's an opening event for the Hathaway House's Frightful Nights weekend. Mm-hmm. And she's dressed as a butterfly.
She's got this beautiful blue sparkly gown on. She's got a mask. She has wings.
Ah, wonderful. And the very first line of the whole book is, "The hot vampire across the room has been watching me all evening." And then the next line is, "I know because I've been watching him too." And I was just like, oh, it's on.
Well, then I've never felt more seen because she felt awkward about realizing all of this. And so she just grabs a random book off a shelf and starts like flipping through it to give herself something to do with her hands. And I was like, yeah. Well, okay, we'll talk about this more as the book goes on. But by the end of the book, I realized, I had moments throughout the book where I was like, oh, that's a me. That's a me. That by the end of this book, I am neither of these fucking characters, to be clear.
Really?
Never in a million years. They both do things and feel things about certain things that I'm just like, I cannot identify with you in any way at all ever again. Which is unshocking based on some of the things that I've talked about on this podcast.
I'm excited to hear about all of this.
But, I did feel very seen in the first, 2 paragraphs before it all went to hell in a fiery handbasket.
Oh, my God. Because she's unbearably shy, and she's feeling really weird because she has been sort of obsessed with this house and its lore for years and years and years.
So we end up learning the premise of this book when we hop over to Dominic's point of view, because he is here to basically face his childhood fear of the dark. And we learn more about that later in the book, but he does not believe in haunted houses.
He doesn't believe in the paranormal, period, the end. And she, meanwhile, has always been a believer. She's actually here because she is sort of a hobbyist expert on this haunted house, on the family, on the lore, on the whole shebang. Partially because she grew up hearing a lot of stories from her grandmother. And then that sort of gave her the bug. And she went down a research rabbit hole that included first-hand letters that were stored at the Boston Library and stuff. She's gone super deep. So she's there, but she's worried about this because she is really nervous and shy and doesn't know how it's going to go as far as being a public speaker is concerned for the rest of the people there.
Well, yeah, because the owner of the home, who is the great grandson of Ruby, we learned her name is Ruby, the main spectral figure in this
that's
book.
the ghost whose prob's there, but maybe not.
Yeah, maybe.
She's totally there. She's
maybe
completely
not.
And utterly
Ruby
there.
is totally
Listener.
there.
Yeah.
To be clear, I made the mistake of reading this book while I was big chillin' at home, just like I usually do.
All on your onesie?
All on my own. And then like my little notification went off and was like, hey, Sabrina, it's time to start getting ready for bed. And I was like, fuck no, it's not. And I swapped over books. I put this bitch down and like went and read something else. Because to be clear, listener, this is a spooky fucking book.
It is officially the spookiest book we've read for podcast. Like, a lot of our Halloween picks, they've run the gamut. We've done historicals. We've done, like, quirky contemporaries.
Pounder. Yeah,
yes, we've done a pumpkin pounder, which was incredible, by the way. But, like,
book,
this was spooky.
This was legitimately a scary book. Like, the romance was great. It's a great, like, go buy this book. It was a great book. Worth it. Don't read it at night alone in your home when you live in the middle of nowhere. Like, there's so many, like...
Especially when you have a penchant for gas lamps, Sabrina.
Yeah,
like, that's not a good combo.
I did not. I was not reading this book and knitting by lamplight. Let me fucking tell you. I was not that masochistic. Like, I love myself more than that.
Glad to hear it.
God. Especially because, like, I know we've talked... Well, so we'll start jumping into it. Like, I'm afraid of the dark. I don't believe in spoopy stuff, but I also don't not believe in spoopy stuff. Like, it's one of those things where I just don't fuck with the spoopy stuff on the off chance that the spoopy stuff is real, right?
Totally.
So, like, like growing up, people were like, oh, yeah, let's do a seance. I was like, I need you to come pick me up from this sleepover because I'm fucking... out. Let's go play with the Ouija board. Fuck no. Absolutely not. Get the fuck out of here. Let's vocally out loud taunt
the
whatever might be. No.
Like, let's not.
Absolutely not. Shut the fuck up. I will gag you. Like, I don't play that game, man.
Well, and neither of us are horror movie watchers. Like, I can barely handle a jump scare in a kid's movie. So
I'm like, so easily startled. Okay, we're just gonna keep going. So we find out that the premise of this house is people have come, they're trying to essentially raise money for the upkeep of the house because it's expensive as fuck to upkeep an old
mansion.
Or not ancient, but like, yeah, old-timey mansion. It's expensive. Yeah. Like, historic homes are not cheap.
No.
To have.
They're a commitment.
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
Where's your wedding ring? Because
truly.
Till death do us part.
That's right. That's right. So the two men who live there, they're married, and one of them is the great-great-grandson, or maybe the great-grandson. I can't really tell the age difference between them. So he's the
great-great-grandson. No, he's the great-grandson.
Yeah,
because we
that's
find
what I think,
out,
because he's older. Mm-hmm. And so Ruby had two daughters, Annabelle and Lily. And he is a descendant of Annabelle because they sort of lost track of Lily, which we find out about later. So they're all at this, like, opening night, and she starts just feeling really weird because the fire, like, roars a little bit, and she's like, okay, it feels like not only the temperature of the room changed, but, like, the emotional temperature of the room kind of changes for her. And so she goes out on the balcony. And as she's out there looking out into the beautiful gardens, but, you know, it's fall time, and so everything is dormant and asleep, she hears this voice behind her. It says, if you stay out here too long, you'll get chilled. The voice is deep, but has a softness to it like a worn blanket. I don't believe butterflies were made for the cold. And she thinks to herself, it's him. I know without looking, his voice as sure and confident as his gaze inside.
To be clear, listener, they have both heavily identified each other as sexy people.
Yeah!
And, like, there is no beating around the bush in this book because she turns around, right? She turns around. They start having, like, a little bit of a flirtationship because she's feeling super bold right now because she has the mask on. Oh. She's only here for 3 days.
That's right.
She's feeling desirable.
It's a break from her normal life.
Which is shitty.
Shitty.
It could not be. I cannot express to you adequately just how shitty her life is because it is stated over and over.
I think the only time we've encountered a life as shitty as this one recently is the third book the second book in Rebecca Weatherspoon's Cowboy series. she's a personal assistant.
Yeah,
you know?
where she's like, my life is terrible, but I can't get out of it. And like, oh God, there's a lot of parallels there though, because like she hates her job. She has a shitty boss.
Hates her boss.
And she can't leave and blah, blah, blah. So,
So then he says, am I disturbing you? Oh, that voice. It's melted chocolate and warm whiskey. Something you indulge in only in nibbles or sips, but I want to swallow it whole till I'm drunk. Would you like me to go back inside? And she thinks to herself, the easiest, safest thing that I should say out loud is, yes, please go back inside. There is a barrier up between us. And she can't. She says, please stay.
Yes. So now they start chatting, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And she's a little chilly, so he does the fucking goofiest Halloween thing and takes off his fake vampire cape and puts it around her.
And it worked on me.
Oh, it totally worked on me. Like swoon central. And so he like ties... I almost said ties her up, and I'm not wrong, but not yet. And so he puts it around her, and he is going to keep her warm. And they have made it clear that both of them are single. Okay.
Yes.
And then he is like, oh, there's just something about her that feels familiar.
And he's drawn to her.
So then he asks her to tell him... Like, so they start chatting, and he asks her to tell him about the house, because he's like, it's just an old house. And she's like, no, it's so much more than that. And so she starts telling him the story about Ruby, the woman that died in this house. Okay.
Yeah.
She died in a fire in 1910. And so Alice is telling a story about the aforementioned letter where Ruby's father threw a ball because she needed to get married, and some local hooligans snuck into the ball.
The ruffians.
She and this one named Brendan ended up talking in the library
on
the
balcony.
And they went on the balcony.
And like they shared a kiss out there.
Kissed at 10 p.m. on the dot.
And then dong, they hear. Dong. And so the next like 4 paragraphs are us following how many times the grandfather clock is tolling, while they're like getting closer and closer to each other. Like, are they going to kiss? Are they not going to kiss? Dong. It's incredible.
And then Alice says, oh, fuck it. And
she says,
goes for it.
Yeah.
And then they have a good kiss.
Super duper hot. And it's long. It's a good one. Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
They're going back and forth, and like she's like, you seduced me, and he's like, well, actually, I believe that you seduced me. Yes. I believe it was you floating around that room tempting me with all your glitter. You who stepped outside, leaving yourself here all alone. You who kissed me, butterfly, and then asked for more.
Oh my God, she says more. Oh my God.
Because he pulls away to kind of check in with her. Let me say, the consent in this book, top notch. From start to finish, there's verbal consent, there's physical consent, there's situational consent,
there's like check-ins, there's consent check-ins, and like and all of them are sexy. I'm just gonna say that right now. This is a great model for like making consent sexy.
Straight up, I'm gonna have to go down the like, does this author have a bunch of other stuff?
Yes.
Like, I'm about to be going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, so one of her first books came out last year at Christmas time, and I think it's called Santa Baby, maybe.
Is in this series.
Like, yes, I think so. It's real good.
Okay.
Real good. Well, there are toys. It's a whole thing.
Well,
all right.
Then, that's another thing is like the kink in this book. It's like so beautiful. Like, this is such a good example of kink in a relationship. Like through the epilogue and like just throughout the book in general is like kind of maybe like pushing on each other, testing, asking questions. Like, oh God.
And it's so organic. So like just to like give an example, because it's a really good point. She says, you have fangs. And he explains that they're caps. It says, seemed pointless to be a vampire without them. And then in his inner monologue, it says, she gives a mute nod, one hand rising to her neck like it did while I watched her inside. Dangerous heat slides up my spine. I'd bet anything my butterfly has some vampire fantasies, and I'm damn tempted to make them come true. And then there's another paragraph, and it says, my butterfly? So, like, it's super organic, and the way that they find out about each other's kinks are just, like, it's all conversational, and yeah, it's gorgeous.
And it's never a sit down, we're going to have this conversation. It's just learning about each other and then asking each other questions, because as they come up, like, is this something that you're, like, it seemed like this is something you'd like, so let me just check in.
Yeah.
It was really beautiful. And so then they go back to making out, and he kisses down the side of her neck.
Good Lord.
And then he does give her a little bit of bite with her pleasure, because this was such a horny scene. He puts the tips of his fangs against her neck and then drags his lower jaw up and then bites down. And I was like, sir.
Yeah, no, I know.
I need you to put those teeth away. And she's so into it. They're grinding on each other and just.
Oh, yeah.
They almost
he like pushes her up against the. He says, we have to stop pretty soon or I'm going to hike your skirts up right here. And she says, would that be so bad? She's like surprising herself with the way
my first thought was, this ghost is here. Like, I fully, like, this book started and I was like, this ghost is real. There's no way this ghost isn't real.
Yeah.
And I was like, Ruby's watching this. And I'll like, Ruby's probably like, damn, they're recreating that night. I was like, there's no way that she and Brendan weren't macking on that balcony. I've read enough historical romance novels.
That's what I'm saying. Those bodices were a rippin', okay?
Those bosoms were a heaving.
Yeah. Tits out in the garden.
Yes, absolutely. So they go back to kissing, so they stop kissing, and he is like, can I take off your mask?
I want to see who you are. You feel so familiar and good. And he says, I'm going to take off your mask and then I'm going to invite you up to my room. But there's no pressure there whatsoever. We've got 3 days and I just want to get to know you however you want that to happen. And she's like,
Dominic is like,
He's so
one of the
swoony.
Swooniest heroes that I've read in a while. You and I have read a lot of really good books, both for Patreon and public, and like even on our own time, we've been reading a lot of really good books that you and I have been squeeing at each other about that the other person hasn't read. Yeah, this man is so much of my catnip. It is not even funny. Like, just as a human, and boy, howdy. And so
it's a pitter-pat moment all throughout this book.
And so then she gets a little unconscious. She just passes out.
That's a different genre, Sabrina, okay?
Yeah. So she just fainting couches. So she is like, she starts to get a little bit self-conscious, right? And so she's like, what if he doesn't like what he sees under the mask? And then she's like, you know what? I'm just going to go for it, because ultimately I'm here for 3 days. If he doesn't like it, then we'll be gone after 3 days. And if he does, then I'll have a really good 3 days.
Yeah, 3 days worth of fun.
So he takes off her mask and goes, Alice?
And so she's like, how do you know me? What's happening right now? And he takes off his mask and he's thinking to himself, oh my God, she has no idea who I am. This woman, I've been thinking about this woman.
7 years.
Yeah. He's been like daydreaming about running into her at an airport in Berlin or whatever for 7 years. And she doesn't remember who I am. And then it's okay, though, because she goes,
no, it's not okay. Because
it is.
We don't want, like, I'm sure that when she reacted initially, he was like, fuck.
I mean, yeah, but then she immediately says his name. It's okay.
Yeah. No, I know. But okay, so.
But like, he was not well, though. For those 3 seconds, he was not okay.
Well, it continues. So we're in his point of view now, right? So immediately, right after this, there's a commotion and Gus?
Luis.
Is that one of the dudes? Luis? No.
Luis and Gregory.
Gregory. Gus.
I'm fine with it.
One of them comes running out onto the balcony and they're like, the fire's jumped the grate. We need some help. So they go back inside, right?
But first, he goes in to go inside and then he turns around and grabs her face and says, Alice, it's so good to see you. And then goes inside. Like, he has to double back to be like, I'm a Swoonosaurus Rex at your face.
God.
And then go back in.
He really is.
I can't.
So then we get our first directly obvious spoop.
Paranormal situation.
Melody?
Were you not okay?
When I tell you this scene started and I was legitimately sitting in my chair and I like paused and looked up and I was like, am I going to be able to read this book? Like, legitimately, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it.
There was a moment where I was like, do we need to buddy read this? Like,
I like straight up, I was like, can I call Melody and we can like read this together? Chat.
We're
so baby.
We're so lame.
We're so baby. And so what happens is the fire has jumped over the grate, okay? And it is not acting like fire should. It's like maybe just an inch or two on, and it's on the carpet. It's not blowing up. It's not causing anything. It's just kind of going along the carpet really slowly. It's just
slowly. A little exploratory snake.
Yeah. And then it would go up to a person and then leave and then go up to a different person. And then
it's just sniffing around the room.
And so then it's happening. Well, in the most creepy way fucking possible, Alice from behind everybody comes up off of the balcony like a fucking wraith and said, she always said that the house likes fire. And I was like, bitch, that's the point. I am fucking, like, I would have been staring there like, I'm not moving because this fire is freaking me out, but like also like I don't want to like start something. What if it chases me?
Sure.
And then Alice comes up off that balcony and says that shit. I'm out.
The house likes fire, ma'am? No.
Yeah, so...
And so then it goes...
Annabella's
doesn't it go up to
that.
her? Oh, God, yeah.
Well, no.
So
then it goes up
and, like,
to
flare up?
him.
Oh, okay.
So then it goes up to him, and he says, it moves slowly, eating up only an inch of the rug every few seconds. If it was a person's pace, I'd call it deliberate.
Oh, deliberate.
Cue... all of the books on one of the bookshelves getting flung off of the bookshelf like somebody brushed their arm aggressively over the shelf. They all hit the ground. He is now, because we learn later, we'll get into the story of it, but like, oh, God. Dominic has big trauma with spoop, okay?
Yes.
And then you're right. The fire goes along and gets bigger. Now it's like 2 feet tall. And then Alice says, by the way, in his mind, he says, and I feel very seen by this. If I am anybody in this book, it's Dominic, okay? To be clear, I am not Dominic in the epilogue, period. I'm not Dominic probably about halfway through this. I'm none of those people. But right now, he says to himself, do a story on his haunted house, I told myself. You'll see it's all hogwash and it will help you finally put all your fears to rest. And I was like, that's a mood. That's a mood.
Yeah.
So Alice, the fire's doing its bonkers thing. And Alice says, if you're here, I want you to know I'm your friend. I'm sorry we disturbed your peace tonight. And then the fire goes blue.
It goes blue in the center.
And it stops moving.
And then it says... She says, we're all here because we care about you, Ruby, because we want to know your story. The fire flickers, then seems to dim slightly. I was just thinking about all the special memories you have here. And then after a while, she says, if you can give us a chance, Ruby, we'll honor you this week. And it's from his perspective. And so he's saying, like, she's directing her voice to the fire now. I'll do my best to tell your story. Can you let me do that? Above us, the chandelier has slowed. The swaying crystals sound like rainfall. Oh my God. Gregory's shaking voice brings my attention back to the ground. It's just like, what the fuck is happening?
The fire's gone.
She is fully, like, this isn't going to be the right analogy, but like, she is the kid who sees dead people. Okay, like she's such a creepy asshole in this scene, and like it's wonderful, right? But she's
never
like
saw that movie
Wednesday
because
Addams.
I got the spoiler that he sees ghosts. I was like, nope, nope.
So then, right after all this happens, the rug is still kind of smoldering and black from where this fire has been on it.
Yeah, but the fire's gone.
No, it's gone. And so Gregory claps his hands twice and says, well, fair guests, I believe we've gotten off to a wonderful start. Now time to go to bed.
Gregory,
Gregory.
Read the room, buddy.
Wow. Gregory. Okay. Yeah.
This is this is one of those moments where like Lewis and Gregory are so cute together, but also never in a million years am I falling in love with somebody and moving into their fucking haunted house with them.
No, because Gregory inherited this haunted ass mansion. And so he and his husband moved in to like renovate it. And like that is a choice I will never willingly make. All right? If I do anything like that, I have been possessed.
I don't give a shit if that ass is tax deductible.
No.
Get the fuck out.
No. I don't care if you were going to let me watch Bridgerton while lying naked on top of you.
Nope.
That's not happening.
I straight up, like, I will refuse to move in someplace if I feel too uncomfortable there.
That's
you know
fine,
what
yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and not from somebody can, like, creep through. Like, if it just feels wrong, I'm fucking out. I'm not sleeping in that house. I'm not
Trust your
renting
gut,
that
man.
house. I'm not buying that house. I like scary stuff, but I'm not fucking living there.
No, absolutely not. I am never going to be the person who's like, haunted house, I'll take my chances.
I'm sorry, that's it. Like, if you want to love me, that's your sacrifice. Get rid of your ghost, bud. I'm not living in that fucking house. You can go with them for a weekend. We can have a little ghostly polycule. You can go be in love with your fucking ghost and leave me the fuck out of it. I will happily take that ghost as a paramour, but I am not, abso-fucking-lutely not. Get the fuck out of here.
Oh my God. So then they're like, don't worry, we'll clean up this mess. We're really used to it. Pardon me? No.
Yeah, the more we learn throughout this book about how normal this is for them, I was like, I cannot possibly express to you how many times reading this book, literally out loud, I said, oh, fuck no.
No,
like,
I'm sorry. Listener, if you live in a house where windows spontaneously shatter, get out of there.
If you live in a house where the light flickers in an ominous way and it's not because of faulty, actually, even if it's faulty wiring, I don't want to be in that house.
No, it's going to burn the fuck down. That's what that's going to do.
Oh my God. And so this is when they go to bed, right? So she doesn't go with him. Because Gregory is like, oh, do you two know each other? And he's about to be like, oh yeah. And she's like, no, we don't. And we're like, meanwhile, I'm sitting here going, what the fuck is wrong with it? Why, like, what's wrong?
She's so weird. She's like, not really. We just went to the same college years ago. Nothing interesting. Mm-hmm. And then he's like, no, we were friends. And then she's very surprised by all of this. And like, she won't meet his eyes. He asked if they could chat. And she just like cold shouldered him kind of. She's super awkward now. And she goes, we'll be here for 3 days, remember? Like, we can just talk tomorrow. And so he's like, okay, I don't know what just happened, but, you know, maybe she's, like, overwhelmed by the spoop that just did spoop upon us. Mm. But, like, I still want to kiss her.
This is a braver man than I.
Right?
For staying in that house.
Yeah. Okay. So then the next morning at breakfast, the cutest thing happens. And I can't tell if this is something I would do or something I would never do.
Is it grabbing 5 pieces of toast? Because you don't know, you're trying to avoid somebody. So you grab 5 pieces of sourdough and then you just fully go into this and just lean in hard and keep adding food.
Ladle eggs onto your plate until it's falling off. Give me 8 bacons, please. Like,
because she's trying to avoid looking
so
at
hard
him.
At this buffet. And he's like, hey girl, just wondering if we can like chat. And then she's just like, you know, throwing stuff on her plate.
To be clear, like, so to give some context to your listener, this isn't her point of view. Now we find out why she reacted so weirdly last night. And it's because Dominic has always been that perfect golden boy. He can do no wrong. He's an incredible writer. He is perfect. He is all of these things. And because they went to school for creative writing together. And so they were in all the same classes in senior year, as you are in a small degree, you know, where like you don't even like these people, but you're forced to spend 25 hours a week in class with them.
Absolutely.
And so he was always that person. And she didn't really have a problem with him until she fell for his college roommate, who was a complete douche nozzle. And as far as she is concerned, Dom got a front seat for the Watch Alice Get Humiliated show. Every missed date, every gaslighting quip, and my body cringes, every other girl Brian fucked, all witnessed by none other than the perfect Dominic Costa.
And like, she has a big writing crush on him too. So it's not just that he's handsome, it's that he's smart. And then we find out later that she ends up resurfacing some memories, I feel like, because she's bottled this down hard. But she resurfaces some memories where, like, he's also really, really nice and kind. Like, at one point he looks at her and he's like, you know, you're dating a complete asshole.
Don't start that yet. Let's talk about that when it happens.
Okay. Sorry. Okay.
No, it's
so
like
sorry.
this book is...
I'm so sorry. So he's trying to make conversation and he's like, did you sleep well? And she's like, and it's so funny. She's like, I slept horribly. I was lucky to get my sneakers tight this morning, and it's all Dominic's fault.
Yeah, because she couldn't help herself but touch herself last night because she's a horny little toad. It really is horny toad season.
It's horny toad season. I love it.
Yes.
Yeah. So then the guys start doing like the welcome to breakfast speech. And they're like, there's two people here that I specifically want to point out to everyone. One is Alice Cardosa. She is an expert on the house and the family and everything. And so she's going to be giving a couple of specialized tours and that kind of thing. She's a great resource. And then the other person is Dominic. I don't know his last name. And he
Costa?
is not... What is it called? Yeah, Dominic
I literally
Costa.
just said Dominic Costa.
Did you?
I love you.
Sorry. Oh, I'm looking at it right now. It's literally up on my phone too. Hello, everyone.
You're like, I don't give a shit. Moving
I don't
on.
care. Yeah.
Whimsy.
So they're like, he's a writer and he's going to do a piece on this. And then he asked him to like give everybody sort of the TLDR on what his newspaper piece is supposed to be. And so he says that he's basically there to shit on anybody who likes paranormal stuff.
To
and,
be clear,
draw the curtain back.
Hang on. He does not
That's what
say
Alice
it that
hears.
way. Well, yeah, because she says, so you're saying you're here to write an article about how we're all crazy. And he's like,
that's not
no.
quite what I said at all.
By the way, he loves this. So that chapter ends, and because she's getting excited again. This is the first time that she's felt fizzy in her brain, like opinionated, and she's going to fight back. And this is my first highlight for the next chapter in his point of view. He says, there's an edge to her, something just a little bit jagged, and I love it. I was like, yes, Dominic.
Yeah. Well, and that was part of their dynamic back in school. They were not only critique partners, and we find out that he would highlight any passage of hers that he really, really enjoyed with green gel pen. And I don't know why I found that so charming, but I really fucking did.
Well, and then
I'm pretty sure it was a shimmery
green
green gel pen. Like, I can't with this man. And then they would also go back and forth about and like have pretty heated, lively, and open debates that they would go back and forth together. And so this conversation they have at breakfast sort of triggers all of that for both of them. And they're both like, into it.
And then this is when we start to go on the tour. Can I tell the story about the portrait?
I would love that.
God, all of the stories from this book. Like, okay, so earlier, I don't remember exactly when it was, but you literally quoted it. And that was the moment when I was like, oh, this is a book that's going to make me cry.
Yeah.
Like, and not even because of the modern stuff. Like, hearing the story and learning the story about Ruth, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it right now.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot possibly express to you, listener, how touching this entire book is from both a modern, like the modern contemporary perspective, and also looking back at the history of the house and the person who is haunting it, right? So we know about Ruby, we know about Brendan. They end up getting married, right? And
Ruby creates the life that she didn't have because she was a really lonely only child. And then
because this was their family's vacation home, and then her father wiled away the fortune, and so they ended up moving here permanently, and so she was alone. She was the only child that was ever born to her parents, and she was lonely. She had no kids to play with. She had no friends. She didn't know anybody, and all of these things. And so when she met Brendan,
they create this rotating door of friends and family and love and laughter and beauty.
And so this is when we find out, because Alice is looking at the portrait and telling the story to everybody following, right? Following her around. By the way, we already have people who have left. After the fire thing, they were like, we're out.
Oh, yeah.
We're done. And so Alice is now telling the story to who is left, which is a French couple that nobody is entirely sure knows how to speak English, and has stated multiple times throughout this book that they're like, I don't know if they understand what we're saying.
They seem to only be existing on vibes, but they're totally making it through.
Yeah. They're living their best lives. And then there's a honeymoon? A couple honeymooning? Abso-fucking-lutely not.
Listen,
Abso-fucking-lutely not.
I know several people where, like, this is their dream fucking
honeymoon. Yeah, good for them. Good for them. I know. I'm like, live your best life, love it out loud, but also fuck that.
But also, not me and mine.
Yeah. So, like, I'm glad these people were allowed to leave and that the doors weren't locked on them, you know?
Yes.
Like, Ruby's not like, wait, you're not allowed to leave. Shunk! Click!
You know she has the power.
Oh my gosh, she totally has that power. So anyway, this portrait that they're looking at was actually painted after her death. And so the story of her death is that in 1910, there was a fire in the house, and she ended up dying.
She and Brendan each of them grabbed one girl, and then a beam fell in front of Ruby and the child she was carrying. And so Brendan grabbed that kid, and she was like, take our baby out. I will figure out a way out of here. And so Brendan took the kid out and then came back, but by that time she was totally enclosed and engulfed in flames, and there was no way for her to get out.
Like, Brendan, according to the history of it, when he realized there's nothing to do, he just stood outside of the house staring, watching it burn.
Brendan was never the same.
So the house burned, and 6 months later, he built a perfect, exact replica of the house that he and his daughters then continued to live in, and he was constantly seeking out the same happiness that he had with her and not being able to fulfill it.
Yeah, of course.
And so this portrait was painted after her death, and so it was based on his sketch of his wife that he loved with every fiber of his being, and their two daughters. Molecule. He told the artist, like, these are the parts of our daughters that are her. And so this portrait is actually two generations of Hathaways. This is the first time I cried in this book. I know. And oh my God, because I have a couple of quotes from it, because maybe if he thought if he could make it all the same, he could bring back Ruby somehow, reclaim the happy life they've lived together. And that's when I went, you sure as fuck brought her back, Brendan. What the fuck, bro?
Well, so that's the thing. One of the daughters ends up saying that he built the house, to exact specifications in order to, like, sort of bring her back, but they think that in the process what he did was instead trap her there.
Yeah.
And he was never the same. He was never happy again, basically. And, like, one daughter really coped with it okay, and the other one was just like, I'm getting the fuck out of here as soon as I possibly can.
Well,
this is a nightmare.
Because this was not a healthy house growing up, because now she has a grieving father who was never, ever the same. He built this giant ballroom, but nobody was allowed to go into it. It was just, like, dusty and sealed off because he couldn't bear to, like, see it or look at it or think about it being inhabited. And so they're basically
living in a mausoleum.
A ghost house.
Yeah.
It's not a house to live in. It's
No.
a house to remember in, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, this entire thing is just a memorial. Mm-hmm. And then, fucking, oh my God, this is how a man gets slapped in the woods. She is outside. So after this, Alice, after telling this story, is standing out in the woods because, like, our little Alice is a sweet little baby introvert. And so it's taken a lot for her to be in there and talking to everybody. And as much as she's passionate about this thing.
She's just trying to do a mild recharge.
Yeah, and so she's in the woods and just kind of looking up, out of focus, staring up at the house, lost in thought. And then Dominic walks up to her in this forest. And to be fair, I will give him the benefit of the truth.
Yeah.
That he did, in fact, walk directly in front of her face. So, like, there's no reason that she should have been shocked by this. But he speaks up and she jumps a little bit. And she's like, you know, it's rude to sneak up on people, especially in a haunted house. And I was like, this is how a man gets stabbed.
Oh, no, totally. This is how you get popped right in the face.
And, like, that's when he said that. And he's like, well, I walked literally directly in front of you. Bitch, I was clearly not paying attention. I'm about to... You'll be able to see what's coming for you. It's this fist.
No, and the first thing he says is, "You've been hiding from me, Alice." Is there a more ominous sentence that can be said to you by surprise?
Shockingly, I did not take that way. Like, of all of the things, shockingly.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Well, and so she's still okay. So for a little bit of context, as we're about to jump into this, as far as she is concerned, when he was trying to get a hold of her last night, he was she thought he was going to basically give her a let me down easy talk. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't realize it was you.
You're so great. You're just not for me.
But it's not. Nah, blah blah. Meanwhile, he's like,
oh yeah, dream girl right here. Mm-hmm. And so he keeps on trying to talk to her, and she's like, please don't. Like, don't even worry about it. And he's like, worry about it? Why would I? And she's like I said, let's not, okay? Jeez.
And it's like super awkward. And at one point, he's like, he has his hands behind his head, and he's like, I've thought about seeing you again a lot, actually. And it did not go like this in my head.
There's a record scratching in my head. Oh my God, it's so cute. And she's like, what? What are you talking about? Oh, it's so cute. And so he's like...
And, like, this is great because, like, there's no beating around the bush. He doesn't, like, play coy or anything. Like, from the get-go, he's like, I'd like, we'd reminisce about classes and, like, professors, and then I might get brave enough to ask you out for a drink or a coffee.
And, like, you're actually excited to see me in my fantasies.
This quick memory lane trip would go late into the night, blah, blah, blah. And it was just, like, so sweet. And she's like, but why? And he's like, because we were friends, Alice. Because I always liked you. And I was like, I love him.
Oh, I love him.
I love this man.
Yeah. And so then he, like, reintroduces himself. It's so cute. Like, He's like, starting over. And she's like, starting over.
Oh, and then one of my favorite things is she's like, you don't know me. The woman you met last night, that's not me. And he's like, who are you then, Alice, if you're not that naughty butterfly from last night? To be clear, listener, her nickname's Butterfly, and I am into it.
Yeah. Yep.
It was great.
Yeah, and she goes, I'm just me. And she's like, my life sucks. I live in the same town I grew up in. I work for a lady who does self-help that doesn't help anyone. And really, I'm the one who probably needs a self-help if anybody does. Mm-hmm. And he says, you stopped writing? And it, like, really hits her. It's sort of a gut punch, an unintentional one, of course. Mm-hmm. But she can't really handle it. It says, it's a simple question, but fuck if it hurts. And especially from him, who, like, read all her stuff and underlined it in green gel pen and stuff. Like, it's so beautiful. And he's like, you were really good. And it says, I always thought you saw the world in a really special way, really different from me. And she says, you always wanted to explain everything. And like, that's exactly why he's here, is to like, you know, unmask the Oz behind all of the machinations in the house and prove to himself and the world that ghosts don't exist. And the dark is totally fine.
It's not.
Nope, it's super not.
Not in book, not IRL.
Also, then he does one of the sexiest things I've seen in my life as a person who has gone from an ambivert to more of an introvert after pandemic.
Yes. I know exactly what you're talking about.
One of the guys comes out and he's like, hear ye, everybody come inside because we're having a game day in the library now. And she's like, he can see her just like deflate and curl in on herself a little bit because she still hasn't recharged at all.
No, she got stalked in a forest.
Yeah,
Melody.
yeah. You've been hiding from me, Alice. No, so he's like, we could just sit in the corner and like pretend to play chess. And she's like, that actually sounds amazing. Like, be my human shield.
This is the moment when I would fall so deeply in love that I would never be able to get back up again.
Yeah.
Because, like, I'm fully an ambivert, and, like, I am just go, extrovert and having a great time. And then I hit that wall, and I have
flips.
Nothing left.
No.
There's nothing for you.
I need to sit quietly. Like, somebody can be in the room if they need to be. But, like, and I've gotten really good at doing it, even in a group where, like, I'll just disengage from the conversation and I'll just kind of sit. And, like, my close friends are really good at just not interacting with me because, like, they can tell. Yeah. Okay. So then dinner happens and she ends up telling a story.
I would have cut myself accidentally.
Oh, yeah. When all of this happened?
This night. Listener, get ready. If you're a scaredy cat, I don't know why the fuck you're listening to this episode if you're a scaredy cat. But like,
I mean, I think the best way if you're a scaredy cat is to listen to these
us.
Two jokesters try and make our way through a scaredy thing.
That's true.
I'm
kidding.
Oh my God. So they're all at dinner. I'm sorry. I just came across a highlight and I just need to read it out loud because her hair is pulled up in a messing bun that leaves her neck exposed. Christ, I want to scrape my teeth on the curve of her perfect breasts. Feel the softness of her thigh under my palm.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
That I meant to ask earlier from the balcony.
Tell me everything.
There was a time in my life when you asked me if I've ever been tongue fucked in the mouth.
Oh, yeah.
I beg you the question. Have you ever been tongue fucked in the cleavage?
Okay. I meant to ask you this too.
I have that question because I'm thinking about this both as somebody with cleavage and as somebody who likes to shove my face in cleavage.
Totally.
I have never done the done or had the done did.
See, okay, I am not a great person to ask about this because I don't have a lot of cleavage to speak of. And so if you tried to fuck my cleavage, you would just lick in between my boobs, which is fine. I'm sure that's happened, but that's a totally different thing.
That is
from
a
tongue fucking cleavage.
As somebody with a pretty honking pair of bazingas, okay?
Absolutely.
Boy, howdy, if you're going to tongue fuck a cleavage, I got the cleavage for you, my friend.
That's right.
And I was thinking about it and I was like, I don't know that I've ever had somebody tongue fuck my cleavage. And on top of that, I don't know that I want somebody to tongue fuck my cleavage, especially if I'm wearing something that I have to keep wearing. Because let's be clear, that cleavage is smushed, which means like all of the sweat and the dirt that has like collected that. Because like that's a shelf, my friend.
The body glitter, that, like maybe
that too. But like I was just thinking about, and I was like, that's not what I would think about, even if I had boobs in front of me. I don't know that I would think to myself, I'm gonna tongue fuck that cleavage.
No, I would do a big nuzzle, you know. I would nuzzle for Jesus.
Absolutely.
Tell you
I
that
will
much.
motorboat the shit out of those tits. I will shove my face in them.
But I've never thought about tongue. Listen, I've never thought about tongue fucking Like, I think anything. Really, you know?
Anything other than the obvious.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It just, I had that question and I just suddenly remembered it.
Yeah.
Because you said the thing about whatever the fuck at dinner. And I was like, I need an answer to that. Listener, we do weekly posts in the cult now.
Oh, yeah.
We also, you can email us, heavingbosoms@gmail.com. If you've ever had your cleavage tongue fucked or you
done
have
a tongue fuck on
cleavage,
a cleavage, let us know. Share with the class.
Please. Or if you
want to know.
Feel free. If you want it shared fully with the class, but you don't want your name attached to it, send it to us. We will share with the class. We will share with the world your secret private story with no names attached. But
absolutely. Also, there's a way to post anonymously in the cult. Pretty sure.
That too.
So either way, you can do it without any kind of identifying markers.
Absolutely.
And I've got no memory whatsoever. So even if your name is attached to it and we meet someday, I will have no clue.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Even if your name is fully attached to it, I'm going to meet you and like you will have to actively be like,
I was that
I'm
person.
The tongue fuck person.
And I would be like, oh, hey! But until then, there's no fucking way.
Fully to be clear, in a year from now, I may pose this. You may answer this question, and I may pose this same question to Melody in a year.
And we will have the conversation as if we've never had it before. Both of us. Poor Michael has too good a memory to be married to me.
Oh my God. It's I can't tell if it's like my greatest dream or my worst nightmare to be with somebody who has a great memory. Like, if they do have a great memory, they're going to have to be so patient.
If we watch the same movie, I'll ask the same questions or say the same things at the same point in the movie. To the point where, like, we watched something and at the very end, there was, like, a song or whatever, and it said, like, by David Hasselhoff or something. And I was like, David Hasselhoff was a singer or, like, whatever he was doing? And Michael was like, yes, we talked about this. We had this exact same conversation in the credits about David Hasselhoff. You know this about David Hasselhoff. And I was like, I really don't, though. And then he told me about how he was really popular in Germany or something. Listen, I don't even remember that much about the second time we had the conversation.
That's beautiful and perfect in every way. You know what? The way I view it is I just get to enjoy things more than once.
Absolutely.
I get to enjoy the wonder of learning something new.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again.
I get the honor of having the nickname Goldfish. So that's also nice.
Super cute.
I know.
Goldfish.
He's like, oh, my goldfish. Because I can't remember a single fucking thing.
Oh, that's so cute.
I know.
Oh, my heart.
I know. He's a fucking dreamboat. I don't know what to tell you. Oh, shit. All right. So at dinner
time,
spooky things happen, and she ends up like holding his hand under the table, or like holding his thigh under the table, because he gets really, really freaked out by like the chandeliers swinging around and stuff.
Well, so before that starts, though, she's telling another story about Ruby. I keep wanting to call her Rosie because of Deal with the Demon.
Yeah.
But she's telling a story, and then all of a sudden, in front of them, specifically in front of Dominic, I swear to God, Ruby has it out for Dominic.
Oh, yeah. Ruby knows exactly what Dominic's buttons are.
Uh-huh. And she also knows that Alice wants him to find her button, a very specific button, which when we have some revelations later in this book, I'll be honest, I was like, Ruby, you don't need to wingman this.
You don't need to wingman that hard.
Yeah.
Ruby wingman's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the spooky stuff is the water starts like shaking on the table, and then his silverware starts shaking, and then the fucking mirror. We've already discussed how I feel about mirrors, listener. I don't remember if that was Patreon or public, but if you are a patron, you know how I feel about a mirror. And then the mirror starts shaking, and Alice stands up and looks into the mirror, and Dominic
he stands up right behind her, except he can't see himself. He only sees Alice and like a specter, a shimmery specter behind her. And he's like, I should be there, but I am erased. And then the mirror shatters. Spontaneously.
Wait, not just shatters.
Oh, yeah.
It cracks right down the middle, in the middle of Alice's face. And then all of the fucking lights go out. I am out. I'm out.
Okay, and this is what I love about Alice. The next chapter opens with, dinner was boring. That is, after all the freaky and totally amazing ghost stuff, because everybody was just like so terrified they couldn't make conversation. What,
and
Sabrina?
One more thing.
Yeah, okay.
That's very important. Before the mirror cracks, before the lights go off, after Dominic cannot see himself, he does in fact see the shadow of somebody.
Yeah, the shimmery specter.
Behind. Oh, you said that?
I said it. Yes.
Oh boy, I was stuck in my own little
house of horrors. You were stuck in your own funhouse mirror brain.
By the way, also one thing, Gregory and Lewis are both freaked out by this, by the way. This is way more than Ruby usually does.
Absolutely. So more guests leave, and then they all go upstairs, and like they try to retire to their own separate rooms.
It was the French couple that left. Like, they're still not sure if they speak English, but they were like, I'm fucking out of here after that crazy shit happened.
We can't. So they all go back to their own rooms, except, and she's really like unsure because she feels like they had a moment, but she also doesn't really know how to like bridge the gap. And then there's like a shatter and a yell and a bang and a craziness, and it all comes out of Dominic's room. And so they all run in there, and as she opens the door, she sees the window is open, the panes of glass are all shattered, and Dominic is standing in a whirlwind of his own notebook papers.
He is crouched on the ground with his hands around his knees, looking around in terror, in fact.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Because bet.
Yeah. There's no other way to handle that, really. Yeah, so it ends up where he's like, I cannot go back in there. I can't do that. And one of the guys is like, well, a bunch of people left. So there's like 2 other rooms that you can go into. And without even thinking about it, she says, nope, he's staying with me.
Yep.
And so they bring all of his stuff into her room, and she's, trying to get him through this and comfort him and keep him distracted and stuff. And
this is when we find out his story and why he is so terrified of the dark. So he grew up just outside of Philadelphia, like where the suburbs become the not so good suburbs.
Yeah.
And it's an old farmland, and the original farmhouse is still on the property. And my worst nightmare, his asshole older brother dares him to go into the house because that's what it is if you go in, like, there's a bunch of, like, it's what the fucking kids do, like they dare each other to go in these creepy places and blah, blah, blah. Been there, done that, have the nightmares to prove it. So, so his brother is like, if you go into the house and stay in there for 5 minutes, you get an hour on the PlayStation. So
he's 8.
Dominic, when I tell you
he's 8,
this is how I go to adult jail.
Oh yeah.
As a child.
Okay, fair.
Because I would murder this boy.
But also, like, how did his mom not notice that he wasn't home all night?
Well, because she was fucking neglectful as shit. He
so
had a
sad.
horrible home life. So he goes into the house, and then his brother blocks him in, like locks the door so that he can't get out. And little boy Dominic is just sitting in this dark house all night long. And one of the things I really liked about this book is that there was no Like, he is still not sure that anything haunted actually happened in this house. He
No.
just knows that there are all these stories, and he is like, I don't know if I made it up in my head and it was just the sounds, because me too, bud. Like, I've been there
Yeah.
where, like, it is a perfect, like, there's nothing well, fuck, I don't know. Maybe there was haunted shit happening, but, like,
No, but like
it's all in
a
your
house
head in the
settles. It
dark.
makes
Yeah.
noises for no reason. Like acorns drop onto the porch. Like
Uh-huh.
shit makes noise, and it sounds
And so,
fucking terrifying.
ever since then, he's afraid of being in the dark, period. But, like, in general, he's just scared. And so his whole reason behind coming here is one of his co-workers or co-writers or whatever basically was like, hey, the story came in. And Dominic was like, I'm going to face my childhood fear.
Yeah.
And boy, howdy. This is one of those places where I was like, you and I are not the same.
Okay, but really quick, before any of this happens, while she's thinking about him, she's reliving part of their history from college, and she remembers one of the times that Brian stood her up when she went to go get him, and they end up sitting there for a while, which happened pretty often. Like, he and Alice would end up watching movies every once in a while because Brian just like blew her off after she came over for a date night. And so this was the night where he finally looks at her and he's like, Alice, like, you know that you're with an asshole, right? Like a total asshole. And she like sort of doesn't say anything. And then he says, what I want to say, Alice, is that you deserve better. You deserve someone who will. And then Brian walks in and they end up hanging out for the rest of the time. But those words keep on going through her head. You deserve someone who will. And she wants to know what the end of that sentence is. Like, And then the shatter of glass and the blah. And now they're both inside her room.
So this is when that she's basically reassuring him that this is not, and this is such a mood where you have something and rationally, logically, you know something, but it isn't until someone else says it.
Yes.
Because she tells him it wasn't your fault. And having lasting trauma from it is natural. You have nothing to be ashamed of or embarrassed about. And he is absolutely taken out by just these words that he didn't even know that he needed to hear, but it has changed everything. And he tells her, you fill me with wonder. It pushes away the fear. And then it's on to him.
On. Well, and she says, I'm scared about this. Like, they make out and stuff, and she's like, I'm scared. And he says, I would never hurt you. And she says, no, that's not the problem. The problem is that I know that I'll have this and then I'll have to go back to my shitty life. And like, how do I do that? And so
if I let myself do this with you here, if I let myself light up, I'm afraid I won't be able to go back to any of it. And I don't know where that leaves me.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I felt that way. Like, this book was it was really cathartic to read.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. It's beautifully written.
Yeah. And she says, like, you know, back then in college, I thought you were like so perfect and confident and you were so talented and I felt like a fraud all of the time. And then she says, when you took off your mask last night, I saw it was you. I felt like that girl again, shy and not good enough, humiliated by Brian right in front of you. And then he says, to me, you were that shy girl who was so insightful and brilliant, and it made my blood boil, especially when you did it all in that Buffy the Vampire Slayer t-shirt. Oh, oh my God. So anyway, she's like, I want to make you feel really good. I want to do this. I want you, but I don't want you to touch me. And he's like, wait, so are you saying that you just want to have your wicked way with me? And she's like, Yes, I do. And so he laces his fingers behind his head and just lays out naked for her. And he's like, I invite you.
He just takes off his shirt.
Oh, yeah,
and
that's
he's
right.
Of course, he's wearing just gray sweatpants.
God. Yeah.
How dare this man walk into this room with lingerie on?
I know. I know.
How dare he just walk around like that?
Yeah. And so, oh my God. She says, you relax when I touch you. She watches her own hand as she threads her fingers through my hair again before curling her palm around the back of my neck. It helps you feel less scared. Yes, I hiss as her nails scratch my neck and dip beneath the collar of my t-shirt. And then he says, you fill me with wonder, and it pushes away the fear. But like, I love that it starts with her just making this like declarative statement. Like, I touch you and you feel better, you know? And he's like, yeah, that is exactly what happens. Anyway, so she gives him the blowjob of a fucking lifetime. All right. Oh, first she dry humps him.
That was hot. Yeah. She hasn't even taken off his pants and she's just like dry humping him and he's into it.
Oh,
he's
my
down.
God. Yeah.
And she ends up, he's like, I'm about to come. And she's like, not until I'm done. So then she says, get ready for this. This is such a real moment. She says, don't you dare. I'm not done with you yet. When I'm ready for you to come, you'll know because your cock will be down my throat. Both of our jaws drop at this. A nervous laugh bursts from my lips, and I bring a hand up to cover my smile. Oh my God.
I can't believe I just said
so that. Real. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've been in situations where like that, where like something leaves my mouth and I'm like, I didn't know I had it in me.
Yeah.
Well, and then at one point she's asking herself, who am I? I don't know if I'm asking him or myself. Am I that shy girl or am I this woman? And he says, you're both, Alice. You've always been both. And I was like, he sees her.
Mm-hmm.
He's always seen her. And like, what is that if not like such a deep desire of being human, which is just to be seen and understood.
And known.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, wow, it's incredible. And he's like, I really would love to make you feel really good too. And she's like, not right now. This is enough for me right now. I just want to like snuggle. And that's not to say that tomorrow will be the same. So like, you best be ready. And he's like, okay.
She's like, you're going to stay, right? And he's like, sleeping the night alone in a haunted house? Or stay with, like, in a house that I'm beginning to think, to my utter horror, might actually be haunted. And she's like, I might give you a hand job in the morning. And he's like, well, then I'm sold. Yeah. I was like, y'all are so cute.
It's so cute. Oh, and she says we can leave the light on. And he like pauses and thinks about it. And he's like, no, I want to try with it off. And he sleeps super well, just spooning her.
And this is when she has a realization, as he's already fallen asleep. She realizes that she thinks that Ruby acts out because she's lonely.
Yeah. And then I had the feeling that like Ruby acted out in that way because she didn't want anyone else to be lonely.
That's how I felt too. Also, I'm not gonna lie, I did almost just pee my pants because my lights did dim and come back up again. And I was like, I literally, which is common at night. I live very rurally, so like when it's dark, like it's not uncommon, but I did say, Ruby, she acts out because she's lonely. And I was like, kill me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fucking dead. I'm out. This was wonderful recording. I have to leave.
I have to move and never come back.
The dogs are going. Like, how do you get out of a mortgage? Like,
yeah, right? So they wake up in the morning and he says, last night was a gift. I loved the confidence and power in Alice's eyes as she took control, the sureness of her hands as she worked me. And she wakes up because he's like, oh, like, I'm only touching her in the places that she told me I could touch even now.
This is what I was talking about with situational consent.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't end because the scene or the context or the situation ended. It just, she never gave him permission to touch anything else. And so he is only touching the things that she said he could.
Yeah, because when they were snuggling, he was like, can I touch your back? And she was like, yes. And he goes, what about your hair? She was like, absolutely. And so even now, he's only touching her back and her hair.
Oh, God.
Until she says otherwise. It's so good. So now he wants to go down on her until she dies.
They have an important conversation before that happens.
What?
Because she is saying, they're kind of going back and forth because
he says, can we talk about this?
And she's like, what do you mean? And he's like, about you and me. And she's like, there is no you and me. We're just having fun. And he was like, having fun? I don't just do this shit for having fun. This is like...
That wasn't having fun, and you know it. That was way more.
Uh-huh. And so they do go back and forth, and she is now feeling really uncomfortable. Not because of him, but because she is afraid, essentially. It's the same thing that we've been talking about. And he's a journalist, and so he travels for work. And so he's like, I want to give this a shot. I really like you.
She's like, play that out for me. What does that look like?
Uh-huh.
And he's like, well, I'm going from Seattle to Siberia to Tennessee to Ecuador.
For 4 months.
Yeah, like, I don't really know. But, like, there's phones and video chat and, stuff like that. And so she's like, what are you suggesting? That we would be boyfriend and girlfriend while you gallivant all over the world and I'm home Xeroxing papers for self-help seminars that help no one? And he's like, I'm not gallivanting. I'm working, Alice, just like you are. I just have a different job. And then he says, if I'm not what you want, just say that. Don't make excuses. And she says, there's no trying because I know how it's going to turn out. And so he's like, okay, so clue me in. How is it going to turn out? And she says, you're going to find someone more beautiful and interesting than me. She says with force, her face going red. Or just decide your life is more beautiful and interesting without me and you'll break my heart. Her voice cracks. And I'm going to be where I've always been, trapped and lonely. And then she puts her hand over her mouth because she cannot believe she just said that. And he's like, Alice, and reaches for her. And she's like, oh my God. And she hides under the blanket. And she's like, fuck, oh God, please pretend that didn't happen. And he's like, Alice. And she's like, no, I don't want the pity in your voice. Like, you gotta, no, just pretend it didn't happen. And he's like, it's not pity. I know. And so he ends up under the covers with her. She goes, I don't want a pep talk. I don't want a lecture about how I should value myself more. And he goes, okay, I answer, swallowing back that exact thing. But damn, I wish you could see it. No lectures. And she just says, this is a lot. And he says, I know. We don't have to talk about it right now. She's like, can we just enjoy this? Like, have a good day and a good night tonight?
And he says, I can't believe I'd ever look forward to a night at Hathaway House, but you have me quite bewitched.
Ah! And so then she's like, touch me, Dominic. I really, I want you. I'm ready for this.
And
he's about to go down on her. He does some nipple tweaking.
And it's hot.
It's hot. It is hot. He's about to go down on her, and then knock, 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 they have an appointment. She has a long-standing appointment with a fucking archivist at the genealogy center or something. Fine.
Incredible. This genealogist, Neo, is the best shit since sliced bread.
Hell yeah.
I loved how casually you do not know this character's gender.
Mm-mm.
They, them pronouns.
Yeah.
There's no physical description that is made in any sort of way. They're just who they are.
Yep. They're just Neo.
Yep. And I fucking loved it.
It was executed perfectly.
Yeah. And it wasn't a big, I don't think that unless you were somebody who really who clocks stuff like that, I don't think you would have registered it even. It would have just been Neo.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And because they're so cool. They're like, this is what archivists of our generation look like, though. They had tattoos and pink hair and piercings. They look like they came from a rock club.
They're fresh out of grad school.
Big old fucking history nerd, because they are so fucking excited.
Yes.
About this entire thing.
They cannot help her. Like, they cannot wait to help her research. They're like, how do we get you into this thing? So TLDR, she figures out that she is, in fact, the great-great-granddaughter.
So, before this,
okay,
they're here because Lily, we mentioned this in passing earlier. Mm-hmm. Lily is the older daughter who was ready to get the fuck out of Dodge. She wanted nothing to do with this. She disappeared into the nether. Like, she never told her family the man she was marrying. She just literally is gone.
Yeah.
And so they are here looking for Lily because she is the last remnant.
She's the only other descendant. So if there is another branch of the family tree, they have to find Lily to figure that out.
Yes.
So yeah, after they do a bunch of research, they figure out Lily's daughter. They look at her name and they're like, okay, well, all we have to do is then look up this person. And she's like, you don't have to. I know her. That's my grandmother.
When I tell you, I gasped.
I know.
I did not see this coming.
Me neither, and I feel a little dumb about it because this was not a Sherlock Holmes moment for us. We were not Sherlock Holmeses in this moment.
Oh my God. I cannot possibly express to you the warmth that I felt in this moment. That too.
Like a flush. Not chills, a flush. Yeah, is a better way to put it.
And, oh my gosh. And so she's coming to terms with this now. By the way, Dominic has started writing his story on the house. Yeah. And he's realizing that this story is no longer about debunking haunted houses, but it's just starting to kind of take shape. And he can't see what it looks like yet, but what he does know is Alice is at its center. Oh my God. And so they are going back to the house, and now Alice is looking up at this portrait of Ruby in a completely different
and she thinks to herself,
context.
When I first saw this, I thought of my grandmother, but I just brushed it off because, like, I thought it was because I heard stories about this place from her. And so he's standing there and he's like, you have her nose and cheekbones. And she's like, oh my God, I absolutely do. And then she's like, Dominic, do you think I'm like making up this connection that I feel to this place? And he can see in her eyes that she wants him to be like, yes, you nutter butter. It's nothing. You can just like brush it off. But he says, you're not making it up, Alice. Like he says, it's part of your spirit. And like that.
And then he tells her, because especially because she's a writer, he's like, you know, you could tell this story just like you tell it to her. Like, this is Ruby's story. This is your grandma's story. And it's yours.
Yeah.
And then she's tired and overwhelmed. They're having a big ball tonight. And so he is like, you need to rest. And so he does scoop her up and put her to bed.
He tucks her in for an afternoon nap, and he says, I'm going to be over here writing.
That is the sexiest thing.
I cannot.
Love that.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So she wakes up, and he is, like, he's still in the writing hole. Like, he's just in the zone. So she gets up and she like gets a little bit ready, and they're supposed to go to a ball situation. It's like the last thing. So she gets ready, and then he finally figures out, he gets to a stopping place and he gets up. He sees her in this red gown that she has on.
This scene is so hot.
This scene knocked my socks off.
Yeah. Well, mine were still on. But that's just, don't look at the feet.
So he's like, oh my God, you look incredible. And she asks him about the article because he's like, I think I have just enough time to make you come before we go down to the ballroom.
14 minutes, by the way. That's what he had.
Mm-hmm.
14 minutes.
Yeah. And so she's like, I don't need that. You know, I'm totally fine. And he's like, no, I really feel like you're not. And also I've been thinking about tasting you all day / since I saw you. And then she asks how the article's going. And he realizes, he goes, oh, yeah, no, that makes total sense. You need to read the article in order to feel completely secure because I came in with an agenda that you don't agree with. So yeah, like I want you to read the article. We only have 14 minutes though. So come sit down at this chair.
Take off your panties, sit on this chair and spread your legs.
You're going to read and I'm going to go down on you. And yowza.
And then we have the cutest thing. So earlier in the book, she makes the statement that her bar is set somewhere above, mostly knows where the clitoris is, but below insists that she has a Brazilian. Right. And so it's made it like this just kind of puts a note in there that she is self-conscious a little bit about personal grooming standard, which to be fair, like society is not kind about that in the current climate. It has not been for a very long time. Yeah. And so she is like, I wasn't expecting to have sex this weekend and I'm not like groomed or anything. Yeah. And he says, Alice, I've been trying to get this point across, but perhaps it bears repeating. I, like all the parts of you, I am sure. By the way, as he's saying this, he's like crawling his hands up her legs and like touching her all over. And he's like, I am sure I will love your perfect pussy in whatever state you choose to keep it in. And then he kisses her. And I was like,
He tosses my underwear aside, slides the end of my dress up, and then he kisses her. It's so sweet. So then, as she's reading it, it's entitled "What I Learned in a Notorious Haunted House: A Self-Expose." And so we read this scene where she's reading the article and then also experiencing him going down on her. And he keeps on stopping to be like, keep reading. I'm not going to keep doing this if you're not reading. Well,
because at one point she tenses because she starts to read something, but it gets to, like, this is before it starts becoming clear that, so basically what the article is he's like, I came here to prove to everybody that ghosts are bullshit. Yep. And
people who like them are like, they're missing something in their life. Yeah.
Yeah. And so she tenses. And he like pulls away. He is in the middle of eating her out. And he's like, it's okay, sweetheart. It gets better. And then she's like, oh, okay. And so she keeps reading. And then it turns into him realizing that because he was once scared as a little boy, he wanted to explain this away. Because if they didn't exist, then what happened to him didn't actually happen.
Can I read you one of the paragraphs? It's one of my favorite things in the book. He says, when things scare us, make us feel small, or shine a spotlight on the reality that in the end, most of us know almost nothing. It's our nature to want to minimize them or explain them out of existence. We do this to people, to belief systems, to identities. And in a smaller way, I did it here at Hathaway House. Because something frightened me, I wanted to explain it out of existence. And then later on, he says, like, there's a power in belief that propels us past our normal constraints of thinking. Like, it's a beautiful, gorgeous
I want to read this actual article.
I know, right? Like Eliza McLane. Hey, girl.
Hey, if you want to, like, make that... actually, at the end of the book, she says, like, if there's a special scene between Dominic and Alice that you particularly want to see, like, she's not opposed essentially to like writing an extra. So like Eliza McLane, Melody and I are here to
I would love
please
this
request this actual article. Like,
if you fleshed it out, let these bitches know.
I would read that.
Yeah,
like, absolutely
it's beautiful. in just
honestly,
the
like
snippets we get.
all of Eliza's writing is just this book, y'all. I
Gorgeous.
cannot possibly express just how beautiful this book is. Like the
Yeah.
way it handles self-doubt and finding yourself, but still feeling joy in the midst of it all.
Yeah.
And like hoping
hope.
for more. Like,
Yeah.
God, it's really beautiful.
Well, and just like the prose itself is just gorgeous. Like without any of those sentiments behind it, the prose itself is just beautiful.
Evocative. Like I felt like I was in this house.
Yeah.
For both good and for worse.
For better or worse. Yeah.
And so, this is so cute. So she comes on his face.
Yes.
And she like rumples up all his hair and she gets all dressed again, right? And they're about to go back downstairs and she tries to like put his hair back. And she's like, he's like,
don't
no,
you dye
you're
earn
not
this
allowed.
hair.
And she's like, everyone's going to know what we're up to. And he's like, I worked hard for this hairdo.
Right.
I'm keeping it all night.
And also, he knows that when they go downstairs, she's not wearing any panties anymore. She never put them back on, which I love. So they go down and she she flounces and mingles and talks to a bunch of people because a lot of people are there just for this one night event. So she's talking to a bunch of people who also believe in the paranormal and like believe in ghosts and stuff. So she's really excited to do this. And he is talking to Gregory, and Gregory is like, she's incredible. Like it's in all the time we were corresponding but never actually met, I felt like I knew her. And he says, yeah, she really, really is. And then they talk a little bit about how Gregory and Luis are having a hard time keeping the house up. And how they always talked about traveling after in their retirement, but they can't really do that with the house. I should have known
where this was going
I know,
at
right?
this point.
I know.
I had no idea.
Me neither. We were not Sherlock Holmeses. We were too caught up to put our monocles on.
Terror.
Yeah.
I was too full of adrenaline.
That's
sitting peacefully in my home to
fucking
catch any
knitting
of the
at
nuance.
the same time. Yeah. And so then after she's done, going around, she comes up to him and she's like, oh, I'm so glad that you're still here. And he's like, I feel like you've been ignoring me all night. And she's like, well, I kind of have been, because I knew that as soon as I gave you any attention, I wouldn't be able to peel myself away.
Cute and flirty.
They really are so cute.
Well, and so then the music turns up. They have an actual string quartet, and so they go dance. And then so we didn't tell this part. So one of the stories that Gregory has from his grandmother Annabelle is that when she was a little girl, she was woken up to music. And so she followed the music. Fearless little girl. Fearless. She followed the music down to the ballroom, imagining the balls that her mother must have had.
And hearing them.
And she opens the door and there's nobody there. And she walks in. The music is still going. And she's standing in the middle of this ballroom when the windows all fly open and these leaves come in from the outside and like twirl around her and like dance with her in the ballroom. And then now the parallel is that Dominic and Alice and Gregory and Lewis, and they're all dancing, and then the wind, quote unquote, Ruby opens the doors and brings in all of the breeze and the leaves, and they're swirling around everybody. And this is when Alice is talking to Dominic, and she says, the fire on the first night and everything in the dining room, maybe she wasn't trying to hurt anyone. Oh, no. So Dominic says this. He's like, he's starting to think like the fire, like nobody ever got hurt.
No.
And like, he even said that with the very first fire. Like, it just seems like there's somebody, if it was a pace, it's deliberate. And like, that was my first thought when that scene happened was, this fire is just introducing itself to each other.
Exactly.
This fire is going up to each person And like that's the vehicle of her death. Of course that's how she's going to be able to like most directly present herself.
Manifest
and so
herself.
Alice says, I think she's lonely. I think that when people are here, Ruby is just trying to be seen, to participate, to dull some of her loneliness. And then he says, Alice, sweetheart, you've been lonely too. Because he sees her.
Can I tell you, this was when these leaves started swirling around them, was another moment where I totally teared up. And one of the biggest reasons is because it resurfaced a memory for me.
Really?
Yeah. So my Nana lived in a suburb outside of Honolulu, and it was called Kahala. And she had this fucking ancient ficus tree in her backyard. It would take 3 people to like go around it holding hands. The trunk was so huge. And on it was this swing that I spent most of my childhood on. It had like, but it was such a big tree that like the ropes itself, they were like old timey sailing ropes, like fibrous, and they were like 25 feet long because the tree was so big. And so I spent so much of my childhood on this swing. And the night that we said goodbye to her and turned off the, machines that were keeping her alive, we came home. Like, we all said goodbye as a family. We knew it was coming. It was the worst. But we were together, So I went home and back to her house. It was nighttime. It was dark. Only like a couple of streetlights were on. And I just went by myself out into the yard and sat on the swing that she had either pushed me on, or there was an open lanai in the middle of her house that looked out onto the swing. And so anytime I was on the swing, she was on the patio, the lanai like smoking and watching golf or whatever, But like this was something that we shared. So I go out and I'm sitting on the swing, and all of a sudden this huge gust of wind came like down through the top of the tree and circled around me, and there was just like this whirlwind of leaves in all around me, and it was insane. And I just felt like she was saying goodbye, Yeah. So anyway, I had forgotten about that wonderful moment in my childhood, and this book brought that back for me.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah, it was nuts. I didn't even I don't know. I almost didn't tell my mom about it because I didn't know that anybody would believe me,
Yeah.
It was such a cool, weird, wonderful moment. Anyway, so they dance and dance and dance, and then they finally allow themselves to run upstairs. And earlier, he had been like, "Oh, you bad girl, I'm going to have to tie you down." And so earlier this night, she was like, "Hey, what you said about tying me up, did you mean that? Is that something you would like?" And he says, "Is that something you would like?" And she's like, "I really would. I really, really super would." So they run upstairs. She's about to open the door, but he spins her around and pushes her against the door. And he says, "We're going to have a chat before we go in there." He says, "Do you really want me to be in charge in there?" And she's like, "Yes." And because he says, I need to hear your words. You're going to talk out loud to me about this. He says, "You want me to be bossy?" And she's like, "Yes."
Yes.
And then, you
want me to bind these pretty little wrists above your head so you're all laid out for my pleasure? And she's like, yes. And he says, wrong. It's your pleasure I'm after, Alice.
And she goes, "Oh, okay." And then it says, he releases my wrists and he says, "Butterfly." And she says, "What?" "Butterfly. That's what you will say if you want anything to stop, anything at all. Promise me." And then after she promises, they kiss. And then she's like, "Dominic, tonight will we He looks at me, lips wet. Do you want me to make love to you? I nod, breathing hard. I'd sort of hoped you would fuck me, I admit. Oh, sweetheart. He gives me that grin. The stalking vampire from the library. The one who seemed to know all my secrets after a single kiss. I can do both. Oh, my God. And
Sir.
So he does.
He's straight up like king of the castle.
Oh my
fucking
God.
Sits down. Well, so firstly, he's like, who's in charge here?
Oh,
and he tells her to get undressed.
No, because
and
she's like, and she's a brat about it.
Yeah, and then he's like, who's in charge here?
Yeah.
And she's like, you are. And he's like, and what do I want? Oh, and this is another thing, is when he was telling her, she's like, well, why would I take off my dress for you? He's like, so I can see your perfect body. And she's like, my body's not and he's like, no. And that's when he says, who's in charge here? You are. What do I want? And she's like, for me to take off my dress. And he's like, why? And she's like, so you can see my body?
He's like, try again.
And she's like, so you can see my perfect body.
And he says, better.
And then this motherfucker spins, takes his seat, waves his hand in a get on it with it motion.
Oh my God.
And then just splays there like king of the fucking castle.
And like, he's not
naked. Wrong. He's like palming his crotch, and she's like slowly like shimmying it down her waist. And reminder, listener, she has no panties on.
Yeah. And so all she's wearing is a bra, and he's like, now the bra. She's like, okay. And then he says, get on the bed, as he's pulling his belt off of his
like
pants.
Snaps it out.
I can't.
By the way, this is one of those scenes where in the hands of a human being who knows pressure points and where like how to safely bind and restrain somebody, not a problem. And I fully believe that Dominic is capable of doing this safely. To be clear, listener, don't let just any rando put a belt on you as handcuffs, because they will fuck up your wrists. So he like cuffs her up, and then he is sitting on her chest essentially and pulls his jacket off, chucks it to the floor, unbuttons his shirt but leaves it on, and then starts rolling up his shirt sleeves.
How dare you, sir?
Oh my God. And then she's like, I want you in my mouth.
I need you in my mouth.
And he's like, tonight's for you though. And she's like, I thought you wanted to please me. And then he fucking runs a thumb along her lower lip and tugs her mouth open and says, and it'll please you if I fuck this pretty little mouth.
I mean.
And then he pulls his cock out while leaving his pants in place.
Yeah.
He literally basically unzips and slips it through. This man is almost fully dressed. And then he puts one hand on the wall and face fucks her.
Yeah.
She
tries to lift up her head, and he's like, who is in charge? She's like, oh my God, you are. Please keep going.
Oh,
it's hot. And so he's like close to coming, and he's like, okay, we gotta stop this. This feels too good. And so then he fingers her. What?
Wait. Oh my God. This is like one of my most favorite things in the entire world.
Tell me.
So he touches her and she's super wet, right? And then he puts his leg in between hers and like leans down to her. And he's like, you are so wet. This suit will never be the same. And she says, sorry, and slows her movement. And he says, you can apologize for taking too long to take off your dress. You can apologize for taking my cock so perfectly that I'll have trouble thinking about anything else for the next month. But you will never apologize for feeling good with me, for wanting me.
Oh,
understood?
Understood.
Sir!
Listen! Okay? Wowza! So then he gets up and he starts fingering her. And oh no, before he does that, she says, I want you. I want this. Oh my God. And she goes, I don't know how, but I want it. And then the next chapter opens from Dominic's perspective.
Y'all, Grandma is in the house and it's not okay.
The windows just burst open again.
Grandma's here and it's not okay.
No. And so then there's like a snow flurry that comes in and there's a bunch of...
The snow is perfectly landing places as if showing him where to pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
There's a snowflake on a nipple, so he goes to the nipple. And then there's a snowflake here, so he touches here. And I was like, great Grandma Ruby. This is deeply inappropriate, but also I'm not mad about it.
It is super inappropriate. No, you know what? She wingmans hard is what Ruby does.
Inappropriately hard, and I loved every second of it.
I loved it. And then it's really cute because as they're going, he's got 2 fingers in her. He's going really slow, and he's like, I'm gonna fuck you with my fingers slowly and methodically, and you're gonna love it. And she's like, oh my God, I really think I am. And
he's like, you don't set the pace here.
No. No, I do.
Dominic!
Yeah, I'm gonna fuck you nice and slow with my fingers for as long as I want. Do you understand, sweetheart? You don't set the pace here. Ugh. So then...
The wind dies.
Yeah, the storm dies down. And then she says, we're alone. Just you and me. And he says, just you and me. Say it again, Alice. And he's like, say you want this. She's like, want this, want you, please, please.
And then he starts like... praise talking her, and he's like, you are so many people at once, Alice. Shy and smart and funny and so fucking sexy. But right now, as you come for me, you're all mine.
I mean, swoon-tastic. Like,
and then she does come
yeah.
from fingering.
I mean,
of course she does.
How is she not gonna? She is a mere mortal.
Yeah, and then he checks in again, because God bless this man. So he goes and grabs a condom out of his bag and unties her because she wants to be able to touch him. And so he comes up and already has the condom on, and he's like, you good, sweetheart? This is still what you want?
Yeah.
Like this, this is a good example of how continuous consent is so sexy.
And then she answers by wrapping one leg around my waist and pulling me into her. I have to close my eyes and take a breath. The hot bliss of being inside Alice is everything. I want to take care of her, go slow, show her how much she means to me, but I also want to pull her hair and fuck the hell out of her. She deserves both. She deserves all of it.
Melody, I swear to God, you and I highlighted every single of the same fucking quotes in this book. So then,
my God,
he goes to Pound Town, man. She has one leg around him. He takes her other leg and puts it up over his shoulder and like lifts her hip, and he's just like going into
all
her.
That leverage.
Oh, awesome. But then they're both getting close, and he's like, we're not close enough. And so he they untangle a little bit, and then he leans forward so that he can kiss her, and then they come together. And then after they come, they roll over and they're holding each other, and it's described as a peaceful, quiet cohabitation filled with the comfort of being in the same room with just the right person.
But before that, real quick, and this...
What did I miss?
This makes me want to narrate this so badly.
Uh-huh.
I want to narrate this book so
You mean we
badly.
haven't already dual narrated this entire fucking book this episode?
Eliza McLane, cast me as your narrator. I will do such a good job.
She will. This is her audition, to be clear.
She's like a little bit giggling, and she says, that was like bonkers, holy shit, wow sex.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've never heard a more Melody reaction in my fucking life. He says,
Truly.
bonkers, holy shit, wow sex. Is that an official term? And she goes, you should put it in an article. I'll donate that phrase to you. Also, we forgot to tell listener that in the article, it's the title. It says, by him, research by Alice Calderon.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Also, he's going to see if she can get a stipend for all the research she did.
Yeah. Oh
it's
my
bananas.
God. And then they have a happy ever after from here on out. Because she says, I meant what I said, Dom, about wanting this with you. But I don't know how to make it work. And he's like, neither do I. And so they have now acknowledged that they both want to be together. Mm-hmm. And they're both to figure out how to make it work.
Yeah.
And then they say, famous last words, do you think Ruby will make another appearance tonight? Who knows? Who knows? She seems pretty quiet tonight.
But I guess with Ruby, you never know what will happen.
Listener, Ruby was not quiet for the rest of the night.
They go to sleep and they wake to shattering windows. No, Ruby was a fucking hero, is what she was.
Yeah, because she woke them up.
Yeah, she saves them. The house is on fire, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
She, like, bangs a bunch of windows.
So Dominic wakes up and he's like, smoke. I smell smoke, Alice. And Gregory's, like, running down the hallway like, fire! Fire! The lower level is on fire!
Yeah, because she knocked over a lamp in their room to wake them up. Mm-hmm. Like, she wakes everybody in the house up so that they can get the fuck out.
And there's only one stairway, and so they have to fucking go. So,
which, like, I'm so sorry. I have to do a quick
put
pause.
A second stairway. I don't care if that's a historical home.
Fucking bing boom bong. If you're gonna recreate the house your wife died in, just, like, make one fucking adjustment and add some extra exits. What are you doing, Brendan?
You know what? I am Brendan and his freaking grief, whatever.
Yeah.
Gregory and Lewis in the year of our romance goddesses.
Fair.
2000 and something. Mm-hmm. Add a fucking... I don't give a shit. Put a fireman's pole on the back of the house.
Thank you. Add a goddamn staircase outside.
Put
one
a
of those
slide. I don't give a shit.
Yes.
What are you doing? Oh, and this is, oh my God, y'all, this is another thing that we did not talk about at the very beginning of this book. When the fire is happening in the parlor, Gregory's like, one of them is like, well, where's the fire extinguisher? And the other's like, we didn't get a new one. It's out. And they're like, why is your fire extinguisher out? And they're like, well, this happens all the time.
Oh, my God. Boys, get your shit together. Like, but seriously, Bing Boom Bong grief architecture with Melody and Sabrina. Put the extra fucking stairwell in.
You have children. Like, God.
Anyway,
fire escape. Yeah, like... Cover that shit. I don't care. Cover that shit in beautiful vines. It won't even detract from the beauty of your fucking home. But guess what? It means that you and your daughters don't fucking die the same morbid, gruesome, terrible way that your wife did.
Yeah, you think Ruby would be happy about that? Brendan? Okay?
Oh my God.
Anyway.
Talk about lonely.
Yeah.
So they go downstairs and everyone's fucking getting the fuck out. Well, Dominic realizes that Alice is no longer right behind him. And when he turns around to look at her, she is staring into the ballroom, which is grossly on fire. Like, this is the kind of fire that sucks you into hell.
Yeah.
Like, it's bad. And now we're in her point of view. And she says, I'm that woman in the mirror again. Because earlier in the book during dinner, when they see when she's looking in that mirror and she's the only one in there, when we get back to her point of view, she talks about how she sees herself, but she also saw all of these other ghostly shapes that looked like all of the past women of wherever. Looking back, now that we know Ruby is her great-great-grandma's, probably all of the women in her family.
Yeah.
I did not catch that the first time around. But she's I'm that woman again. Layers of generations piled one on top of the other. Love and pain, all touched by fire. I don't know how to walk away, how to leave this house when I've just found my place in it. And Melody fucking Carlisle, this is the moment where I went, is this not an H? Like, there was a part in a different book.
Really?
She walks into that fucking fire.
Totally. But that is a different genre.
That is. But I did have a moment of panic where I was like, Eliza McLane, don't you fucking do this to me.
Fuck me over.
And then she doesn't. Thank God.
Because Dominic grips her shoulders and he says, this is just a house, just wood and stone. You keep the stories alive. He lets go of one shoulder to tap my chest, thumping against my breastbone. You keep the magic of this place going, but we have to leave right now, sweetheart. And he tugs her one more time and she's like, you're right. And so they make a run for it out of the house. And right after they leave, the house just combusts,
collapses,
completely aflame.
Yeah.
And she says she waited until we were out. And Gregory and Lewis are standing there. And Gregory says, Alice, do you feel it? And she says, feel what? And then it's that spiky supernova in my chest, the achy part of me that drew me here, that pulsed when I looked in the mirror. It's twirling, it's softening, it's gone, I say, astonished. She's gone. And then Gregory says, she's free, Alice. She's free.
Fuck. Y'all. I don't want to talk about how many times I cried in a 160-page fucking book. Like,
right? How dare she?
It was so good.
So then he looks at her and he says, come with me, Alice. Decide to come with me. And she's like,
come to Siberia.
Yeah. She's like, to Seattle, to Siberia?
Well, and then he's like, or I'll stay. I'll cancel everything. And she starts thinking about what that would look like. Because she's like, oh my God, he'll stay with me. And then she realizes what that looks like.
Why
She keeps working for douchey McFuckface. Yeah. She keeps hating her life and blah, blah, blah. And then they figure it out. She says, I could keep working for Mrs. Marshall while I look for something more fulfilling. And fuck that. Ruby saved me. She brought me Dominic. She set my life on fire. And she sure as hell didn't do it so I would trap myself back in how things were 3 days ago.
Oh my God, it's an HEA. And it turns out like she spends that time writing a book about all these generations of women and the house. Yeah. And it's a beautiful memoir that I would also read, Eliza. No pressure. And it's just like fucking gorgeous.
And then the epilogue is so sweet. Like they're working, they've been together for 2 years. They have the cutest proposal because basically what happens is it was a Sunday morning last June, rain tapping at the windows of our apartment when I woke slowly and turned to look at Dominic to find him already watching me. Marry me, he'd said. And I'd said yes. And I was like, So, because in this epilogue, to be clear, this is where I was like, Dominic, you and I are not the same fucking person, you absolute Looney Tunes motherfucker.
All right.
And this, I understand his reasoning. It is super sweet and super adorable, and I love that so much, but I could never.
Tell the people why.
He bought her a haunted house. By the way, there's some really good sex in this epilogue. We're just not going to read it to you.
There's a finger blast to save everyone.
And a fucking eat down.
Also
eat down.
Yeah, sure. I'll take it.
Hey, you know what? Sure.
I'll give it to you.
And then like a real good fucking. And he is taking her to this surprise because apparently this local haunted house was put up for sale. And so she's been gone for 3 weeks finishing her book, right? So he spontaneously puts an offer in on this house because he doesn't want it to get snatched up. And she's ecstatic, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, as long as you're there, I'm happy. I feel safe. You are my safety. I'm not going to lie. If you leave town, I will be sleeping in a hotel. And I was like, fair. Yep. Then, I'm so sorry, but this is the point where I would have called my realtor and been like, actually, I rescind the offer because while they are standing on the grass looking up at this house, they see a shadowy figure walk past an upstairs window, and that's what I would be.
Out. There would be a melody-shaped hole in the wall.
In the universe. They're not even inside. Like, I am going to a parallel fucking universe where I never met this bitch. I never went to the Hathaway house. I never tried to buy a haunted house. I'd like go into that parallel universe and be like, hey, Sabrina over here, you need to get through. Go back there. There's a hot lady waiting for you.
You've got growth to
You got to take
happen.
my space, okay? Mm-hmm. You're taking my place, and I'm living here now. The end, listener. This book was incredible.
This book was so fucking good. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, wow. Shit. So good. I'm going to be reading every fucking thing. This isn't a new author. This podcast is the worst thing that's ever happened to my TBR.
I hear you. Yeah, I hear you. I'm also sorry, not sorry. Okay. Do you have a lady love?
The only one I can think of is that one that I messaged you about where I was like, it's way too fucking private and I'm never actually making that a lady love. You go first.
Okay.
I'll tell you what it is. I've been private.
No, that's definitely as soon as we stop recording, you're telling me. So my lady love is a little show. It's been a really long time since I have had the time or bandwidth or inclination to actually make myself watch a show that's not something we're just watching as a family. And so the other day I went out and I decided to take my laptop to work on the couch next to Michael, and he was watching, I think, the 6th episode of a show called Gen V. It's on Amazon Prime, and it's in the universe of The Boys, which is that dark superhero show. And this is all about these kids who have powers who are at a superpower university. Mm-hmm. And it is just as dark and twisty and a little bit fucked up, but also has the sexiest relationships, and I don't know, just the emotional arcs of each character has been absolutely on point. My favorite relationship is an enemies to lovers that maybe it's more like rivals to enemies to lovers kind of situation. Mm-hmm. But one of the people in that duo, their superpower is that they shift between genders, and each of their forms has a different power. So when they're the girl, they can push stuff. It's a kinetic thing where they can fuck you up without touching you kind of situation.
Oh, that's cool.
And then when they shift into the boy form, they're invulnerable. So it's they go from hitting somebody, and then as the other person is swinging at them, they'll shift into the boy invulnerable form. And the whole thing is really cool. And it's such a nuanced, really gorgeous character because they grapple with a lot of things. One of them is their dad wanting them to only present as a boy ever. Just forget that the girl half of you exists. And the way that they experience romantic relationships, trying to figure out why a person is attracted to them, or do they have a preference for which form they're attracted to kind of situation. And it's so well acted. It's also just gory AF. Like all of it. One of the characters, he's got some mental health issues. He's also been tortured basically his whole life.
Oh no.
And so one of his quirks is that he starts seeing everyone as Muppet puppets. And so there's a whole scene where it's just puppets ripping heads off, and a bunch of red glitter will spray out of the puppet.
Oh my god.
So they do this whole fight scene with puppets, and it's incredible. So yeah, Gen V, huge recommend, but check the trigger warnings. I guess. There's a bunch of shit. There's suicide. There's everything in there. As a show from the universe of The Boys would be.
Okay.
All right. What's your lady love?
I swear that this is not a plug.
Okay.
But my lady love was the Twilight watch party.
Holy shit.
This weekend.
That was life-giving.
It really was. We weren't quiet during it, and it's okay. Usually we're watching movies where, most of us haven't seen it. So, it makes sense that we're not talking over the movie. But, just getting to revisit like the nostalgia, and then on top of that, like talk to all of these freaking badass romance readers and like interact face to face with a bunch of HBs watching this movie that we all have a history with.
And learning like, so much from
learning
people.
Stuff.
Yeah.
And then like the chat afterwards, that inevitably that's what watch parties turn into. Where
that's
like
my
we all
favorite
end up
part of
continuing
watch
to talk for like an hour and a half about books and just tropes and things that we love. And like it just makes me really happy because I have a really busy week coming up ahead of me. And so usually I wouldn't do anything the weekend before I go to a conference, right? Because I need those few days to just on my own. But like that was recharging.
It was.
Like I didn't feel exhausted from it the next day. I usually would have.
Energized.
Yeah. And that's my lady love. And like that's just so the most specific, most recent example that I have of it. But in general, my lady love is just watch a fucking movie with your internet friends, man.
Yeah.
It does not have to be an in-person thing. Like, just watch a movie with your friends. It's fun. Such a good way to just hang out.
Yeah, hard recommend. All right. Keep being a badass.
And love yourself as much as you love
wingmanning ghostly grandmas.
Oh, God. So inappropriate, Grandma Ruby. Yeah, that's so perfect.
But I'm also very into it. Bye.
Yeah, I had no problems with it. Bye. Heaving Bosoms is produced by us, Melody Carlisle and Sabrina Bradley. Editing is done by Melody Carlisle.
Our theme music is by the incredible singer-songwriter Brittany Fonts, and our art is by ultra-talented author Kate Pryor. If you like our show, remember to follow us on your favorite podcast app, rate us 5 stars, leave a nice review, and of course, tell all your friends about us, even if they don't read romance.
If you want to get in touch, you can email us at heavingbosoms.podcast@gmail.com. If you want more of us, visit patreon.com/heavingbosomspodcast. You can also find us on Instagram at Heaving Bosoms, on TikTok at Heaving_Bosoms, and in our Facebook group, the Heaving Bosoms Geriatric Friendship Cult.
Head over to our website to sign up for our newsletter, get our Reading Embrace printable, and check out my audiobooks at heavingbosoms.com. All right, we'll be back next week with more swoons and snark. See you then.